Yeah.
We
All right, let's
outside the city.
let's call the meeting to order.
Than we are.
I'm glad everybody's listening to me.
We should not have that. Oh, you don't have the gavel?
No,
You want it?
no. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Reese,
Here.
Councilman Osk,
Here.
Councilman Nelson,
Here.
Councilman Davis,
Here.
Councilman Schuldis,
Here.
Councilman O'Brien,
Here.
Councilman Betterfield,
Here.
Councilman Osmus,
Here.
Councilman Fagerly,
Here.
all present.
Let's stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions for anybody to the agenda? If not, we'll go on with our discussion in regards to City Hall and Community Center. I intend the discussion not to be about Community Center, for we've got a task force working on that, and I think we need to just discuss City Hall here tonight. And this has been, as you all know, bantered around for years. And I think it's time that we make a decision of location, nothing else, just location, where the City Hall should go. I think that there's a call on us to serve our downtown businesses. Therefore, as I've said before, that I'm in favor of having the location be Block 50. And again, that would be in the farthest northwest corner of Block 50. I think there's two lots that I would be targeting for the construction of City Hall. And it would be the lots that line up, the second one underneath the law office. I know if you want to pass that around.
Does everybody have that? Here.
But it'd be in the 6230 and 6220. That's the I just think that that's the most appropriate place to put City Hall. We've got a number of businesses downtown. It'd be right across the street from the courthouse and also the library. It would take some parking, but not a lot of parking away. What was the footprint of, it was 100 and,
It's on the back side of the printout.
So square footage is 17,000 square feet is what initially is planned. So it'd be like 125 feet by 136 for 17,000 square feet.
And that's one floor?
That's the first floor. Yes.
It is just one floor?
Well, this footprint you're seeing is only one floor, but it would have to be 2 floors, 2 stories.
What's the square footage of the building we're in right now?
It is under 21. It's under 21.
Total?
Yes.
First floor, second floor, or basement?
It's total, I believe.
It's 50/40 on the first and second floor, and then 3,128 on the
I don't have,
one-story part.
yeah, I did have the totals on the schematic, but
What have you got, Rick?
Two stories. 129 by 42, which is 5,040 on each floor. So that's 1080. And then 3128 for the entry that way.
Is that the current one you're talking about?
Yep. Plus the.
Did everybody hear that?
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, the county assessor has the two-story part, 120 by 42, and that's with the basement, so that's 5,040 square feet on each level. The office or one-story part is 3,128, so a little over 13,000, plus the basement. Give or take.
Is it safe to say that if this drawing were true, we would also take the other lot for parking for the city hall? The next lot, 6,200 for parking?
well, it would be open. It would be public parking, just as it is now.
Yeah, but
You just leave
you,
it as public parking.
But we would need to designate some city parking like we have now.
You would probably only have to designate the first row to City Hall, because most of the parking is not for the public, would not be more than that.
No, but we have
Staff could park kitty corner at our current parking lot that we have. They would not have to park, because the other parking lot is just kitty corner here, over here. So staff could park there.
the courthouse uses that parking lot for regularly, don't they? Our other one?
The one that, this morning when I drove by, it was mostly, nobody would have been from the courthouse, because it was at 5:45 this morning, and it was mostly so somebody else from
Downtown?
downtown is using it. That section was used more for some other,
Leslie, this blue, 17,000 square feet, that takes in 3,
but that can be adjusted. You can also go 3 stories and make your footprint smaller. You wouldn't have to go this size. You wouldn't have to go 125 by 136. But that's all just after you decide where the site is.
yes, I agree.
And we can adjust that and work on those.
I do think, though, we've had a discussion about this block before and about consuming it and saving parking for other things. So for me, that's still part of the decision with how much we're going to consume it.
Well, the parking lot in the studies has been that it shows that 60% of the parking lot is used. So 40% of it is not, and so I would say that we would be shifting them from that corner over to the rest of the parking, because you can see that even in this picture, you have all this parking that's still open. So I don't think we're going to be taking that over that 40% that's not used.
So what kind of setback from property line did you assume here in that?
I didn't. But you're downtown, so it's a zero setback.
Yeah. But I just see the
But
blue
there's
is
a
back.
perimeter that in Bruce's schematics, he had a perimeter of at least 20 feet around the building for snow removal on the north and the east side.
Well, again, we're talking location, and I hear what you're saying, Audrey, but we could make modifications of the design to allow as much parking as we would like.
Well, just looking from the way everybody parks there, wouldn't it be better to, if we went there, to move it south, so it's closer to Trotta Avenue, down in the building, use that section? That way you got the north part of the parking lot for parking for all the businesses downtown. You know, that might be using that lot there, right across from the county courthouse.
You're thinking,
Moving it here versus there.
yeah, but that's your parking for the library.
Yeah, but if you look at the picture, most people are parking up here, though. See, majority of people are parking right here. There's hardly any parking down here.
I think it's better to leave it where it's drawn, because if we have events downtown, then we can use the parking lot for the events.
Yeah, you still will be able to, you'll have,
Well, but I mean, we'd have a bigger chunk of it all together instead of having it split up.
Yep. Condense it.
Mayor, how far did you say that the building would be from Bethel? What would be the distance on the east side?
On the east side of the building,
Yeah.
I think it was like
You said 20, I thought.
20 feet,
20 feet between the buildings?
I think so.
Well,
Well, that's not the buildings, that's the property line.
Now, I'm talking about the buildings. so-
yeah, that can be adjusted as you're creating the structure.
Yeah.
None of this is at scale yet anyway, you'd wanna, but that can be all adjusted when if that's the site you wanna go to.
So we're asking for approval of this site, but we really don't know the dimensions or where we're going to put it.
Exactly, no,
You wouldn't know that until you start designing the schematics anyway,
yeah.
and looking at those very more detailed site designs.
Another potential advantage to this site that, as I see it, is the possibility of closing Fifth Street. You could add parking in front of the library there. You could make green space in front of where the city hall was, or you could make that parking for the employees. I like the idea of making that Fifth Street, as it is, a green space, maybe add a little parking to it, but that's, to me, that's an appealing option for this site. One that makes me kind of be in favor of this site.
Yes, Audrey.
Just a comment, I mean, Fifth Street is the through street from the south into downtown, so closing that is going to change the traffic patterns for people who need to get downtown.
But Sixth Street serves the same purpose.
Well, but Sixth Street's on the edge of on the edge of the businesses, you're going to talk about 4th Street, or you're going to talk about other locations. I'm not sure I'm in favor of closing 5th Street.
Well, we'll have that discussion
Right.
at a later date, but
No, I don't think a later date, because if if our influence is that, oh, we can do this and close the street to do it, then we're saying close the street to build the building.
yeah, but putting City Hall on Block 50, it doesn't depend upon us closing Fifth
Right.
Street.
I'm just saying that's a.
Possibility.
To me, an attractive option.
Yeah.
But
What assumptions are we making about the future of downtown? Like, I think in the past, there's been a lot of conversation around put City Hall out at the current community center because we're growing north. This community's going to build, and it's going to build north. I don't know if that's true or not. What assumptions are we making about the future of downtown? Is downtown growing? Declining? Status quo? Like,
Downtown is full of businesses. It's full. So I would say it's doing well. I think by putting this downtown, we're showing that we value our downtown. I think we should keep it downtown if we can. I wasn't fond of losing parking, but I'm less fond of moving City Hall out of downtown.
And I guess that's my point too, is I don't object to keeping it downtown, but if we think City Halls, or if we build City Hall on Block 50, we better be making the assumption that downtown is in decline, because otherwise we need that parking. I'm looking at the hospital right next door. I mean, there's not a lot of places for them to park, so you're seeing a lot of people parking there. The library parks there, the courthouse parks there, all those businesses downtown park there, whether it's staff or customers. And so for City Hall to come in, and even if we're only taking
37, I counted.
Yeah, I think when you combine then the footprint of here's the city vehicles that are going to be parked there, here's the city staff vehicles that are going to be parked there. I mean, this lot will be over capacity more often, I think, than it will be under capacity. And I've heard comments about, well, we're put parking at current City Hall, like, it's another block away. I think when people are going downtown, parking is already a problem, and this makes it worse.
I feel that if we put parking where the current city hall is, then that could accommodate the courthouse. Anybody that would be shopping along Fifth Street there, that wouldn't be any further away for people to park there.
In the past, there's been discussion of doing the same thing, not do both, but do one of the other, of closing Becker between 6th and 5th. But that doesn't address, I think it would be nice to have that green space and parking over by the library. Again, we're just talking location, and it might be a vague location. But what I'm in favor of is a motion here tonight to identify Block 50 as the location.
This is a work session. This is not a motion night. This is a work session.
Our city attorney has told us we can have motions at these meetings.
That's not my understanding of work sessions.
Yeah.
I am not in favor of having a motion at a work session. Work session is to work through things. Council meetings are for decisions. That's how the work sessions were set up.
Vicki?
I'm in favor of voting at a work session if it's legal for us to do so.
Yeah,
And I
and
believe it is.
I checked with our city administrator because I
If
thought
we're
I
gonna-
had talked to Robert, and he had said we can vote at a work session.
If we're gonna-
She verified what I heard.
I'm not saying we can't. It has been our practice, and I asked this question at the last meeting. With that, we do not vote at work sessions.
No, I disagree.
That's our protocol.
I disagree.
And if we're going to do one, I can easily make a motion to adjourn.
Excuse me? I feel like if the mayor would like us to vote at a work session, we should honor that.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Mayor?
Yes, Tom?
I'm in disagreement with voting tonight. The general public didn't know that we're going to be voting. Some of the public might have wanted to be in here because, you know, we've heard from J.C. Penney's, we heard from the community center, Block 50 to the auditorium. There's a lot of people out there that have different wants where they want it. There's nobody here to sit there and say, I don't like this spot, I don't like this spot, I don't like this spot. I'm here to represent the constituents of Ward 4. I have nobody here voicing their opinions for me to listen to. I'm not in favor of voting tonight on the location. I think we can pinpoint it down to one or two and carry that over to our meeting, but voting, no. Then I'm with Audrey, I'll call for adjournment.
Mayor?
Yes, Mike?
Wasn't there a discussion at one time about a ramp, parking ramp?
Yes, that's,
Is that still in the?
No,
works?
no.
It's gone?
No.
Completely?
that was lumber one.
Well, and it was, when you had a discussion with BKV Group also, they showed you, because they do have somebody, they do have a developer that they have in line that would also be considering putting a residential development downtown with a parking ramp and with the city hall. And, but at that meeting, it was heard loud and clear that the council didn't want that. So they didn't want to lose the parking and didn't want to have the parking ramp, and so it's just been then focused on the city hall being down there.
We didn't want to lose the parking because we're putting a parking ramp?
Wow.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
They didn't want to have the residential development and the parking ramp.
I have talked to businesses, people downtown, and I talked to, as of this morning, the pastor of Bethel, Pastor John, and Justin has talked to him too, and he has expressed that he's just fine with putting the city hall on Block 50 as I had expressed up in the northwest corner of Block 50.
Can I ask a question about the survey? Since that was
Yes.
included in the packet. the
Well,
staff
we can have Planning Director Christopher Corbett to speak to that.
Sure. So I think I was most struck by 46% of city staff surveyed feel like a new building would be empowering, whereas 45% think the current building is fine and needs improvement. Like, I mean, 45, 46, we're going to call that even in my book. That was a striking number for me. The narrative that I have always been told is that staff want out of the current building is a hazard, the current building is not a feasible way to move forward. And as we're looking at making a really major decision here, to see that number, to tonight was striking to me. I guess I'd never would have assumed it would be so high. And it makes me think about, I mean, when was the last time we had a conversation about the current building being rehabbed? I don't think that's taken place since I've been on council.
Well, 70% of the staff that voted, majority of them are also public works and wastewater staff that do not work in the city hall.
So
Because
that,
we only have 26 people in city hall.
okay.
So a majority of our staff are not in city hall.
So
then
dismiss the survey?
Exactly.
Well, it represents total, so
And
it's no different than the public. I mean, the public could
Well,
tell
it
you
is
that
different than
too.
public because there was a meeting not long ago where Councilmember Osmus and I were asking for more input from the public. We've not seen any of that. I'm very much in agreement with Councilmember Butterfield that I think that's a major issue. I think there's a lot of our constituents that would like to weigh in. I think they have opinions. So,
So, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So on December 20th, we hosted our annual holiday gathering, our lunch. And what we did was we had two engagement scenarios, one being a survey. Those were only 39 employees took the paper survey. And then we had 70 participants to vote on a location. So this qualitative data that we received from our engagement, taking a look at the paper survey, it's just a small sample percentage. And so Administrator Valian is correct. Most of the participants that took this survey, the paper survey, were not actually working in the City Hall building. One thing that I will stress as a newer employee, but definitely working in City Hall every day, I think we're in a position now where we have kind of made a building work for the staff that is there. It does not take in consideration city staff and the city growing and us increasing employment at City Hall. So that will be one caveat that I will throw out. For the survey, though, for the bucket that we did 3 locations, and it is based on 70 of our employees that did vote, Block 50 was the winning location. And so though most of your staff says that a new environment would be great, so a new building will be great. I think it comes to a question, how are we serving the public? And if our building is serving the public at our best capacity. And so it is to give some thought. These are just a sample numbers that, we'll like to continue engagement and do a larger engagement with city staff and the general public as well. And that can be led by the Department of Planning and Development.
Yes, Tom?
Say, I got a question. Basically, from what Councilmember Oss said, he wants to move things north. So I think we basically have Block 50 or the site across from Robbins Island. If we could, as a council, get it down to those 2 groups, is there still enough time to get this on the election for 2024's on presidential election, get this added on to our ballot and let the taxpayers of Wilmer decide, Block 50 or Robbins Island, because they're going to be ones paying for it. And this way, everybody's voice is heard. If we got 10,000 voting for Block 50 and we got 11,000 voting for Robbins Island, then we go with Robbins Island. We're giving the community a chance to really input, be involved in on this.
I'm not sure. I can't answer that when the final is for a question on the general election ballot.
But I think if we could check into that and we get it going, I think that's the way we could really move, and we could give everybody in Wilmer an opportunity to vote.
Tom, I'd say everyone in Wilmer, voiced their opinion when they hired you, and you are to represent the people here at this table.
Yeah, but there's people here that also don't listen to the people. We went through this during the budget. We had people sitting there talking. I held a town hall. I only heard one person that was in favor for raising it. Everybody else said, lower the budget, lower it, lower it. I was the only one that voted no on this year's budget. I was the one listening to the taxpayers.
Well, then I would the JCPenney's location because the public said that's where they wanted to be, and the council didn't listen to that.
I think we need to be a little careful. It was a select group of the public that said they wanted to be at the Penny site. It was a select group that came to your town meeting, Tom. It was not representative of the entire, it was open to everybody, and everybody had a chance to voice their opinion on JCPenney. I don't know that putting it to an election is the best idea. I think we'd have to really look into that. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Tom. I'm sure that the people at your town meeting were very much against the budget, but that's also in part maybe because they knew that that's how you felt. You know,
No, it wasn't on how I felt. I reached out, I put it out there, I tried getting as much publicity as I could on it on short notice. I wanted to hear back from the people.
Oh, I
You know?
100% believe you. Yeah.
And believe me, we do need our police, we do need our fire departments, we do need this, we do need that. I didn't know where to cut the, stuff from the budget to lower it. We need everything. It was brought up, well, we can pull it off from, community ed and rec. No, we can't, because we took that money last year. We had to repay back $100,000, the way I felt, that we should increase the city's rec department $100,000 that we, borrowed from Peter to pay Paul the year before. We didn't do that, and I was fine with that. No, it wasn't a select few. People had it, it's like I said, I had one person there that was there that said, or wasn't there, but told me over the phone, put a phone call on me and said, no, I'm all for raising the taxes.
I think Councilmember Butterfield raises an interesting question, though, about relevant to the City Hall conversation tonight, too, where it comes down to what can the city afford? And if the goal is to bring City Hall along at the same time that we're going to have a new community center, I don't see how you can build on Block 50, build City Hall, going to cost, according to the documents in front of us tonight, what is this? Just had it out. Now I lost it. What, $20 million?
17 on the low end.
All right. We had proposals this year to build the two together. They both could have been built for that amount. And so to separate them out, my guess is we're probably looking at $35, $40 million to do the two. I don't know how we do that. When we had such a struggle with the budget this year, I don't know how we can realistically think we're going to be able to do both of them if we're building them separate and building them both new.
May I speak?
Yes.
This conversation's been going on since I've been on council. I think it was going on before that. And I feel like we just keep on doing these loops, and we're never going to get it done. And no matter if we build them separate or together, it's going to cost way more by the time we do it. So I think we have to narrow our focus and decide something. And today, I had a few people tell me, just pick something. Like, we're tired of waiting, just pick something. One of them was on the community center task force and said, we don't know where to go with this because we don't know what you guys are going to do. And everyone's looking at us waiting for an answer.
Yes, Audrey.
Thank you. I appreciate what Councilmember Davis is saying, but we did vote once before. We made a decision. We were ready to go. We had the plans. We were moving forward. And we stopped. So was that decision wrong? Because now we're just circling. And I don't know if we can afford to do both. But if we're pushing to just build City Hall, then in my mind, we're saying we're not going to do the community center. That the community center has to wait, or we simply use the local sales tax, local options sales tax dollars to fix it up. And that was a discussion that had taken place when that $2 million was put in there to begin with, too. And I don't know what the right answer is, but just making a decision to say you made a decision, then we probably should just stay where we're at, because I don't know if we have the right decision. And personally, I think if you put it on the ballot, I'm not sure that the community would vote to have a new city hall. I don't know if people really understand, or how many times do people go to City Hall?
Again, that's why you're
That's
elected.
why we're here. I
That's right.
understand that. I understand that. But I don't want to make a decision just because we haven't made one. I think we've circled the wagon long enough that we need to come to terms with what is it we want. You got a community center task force that you appointed? What are they doing? What are they, I mean, if we vote next meeting, what do we want the community center to do? I don't know. I understand that people say we're not making a decision, but maybe we don't have the right things in front of us to make that decision. Maybe we can't afford it. I agree. Taxes were painful this year.
And we keep,
And the streets are going to be the same way next year.
we keep going around in circles.
I know.
It's frustrating.
I agree. I don't disagree.
May I add just a
Yes,
few more points?
Christopher.
So as a planner, taking a look at Block 50 and having a city hall downtown, it means a lot to Councilperson Davis' point, to be surrounded by other public offices. So you have the county, you have our post office, we have a bank down there. It's very accessible and pretty much centrally located. I think no matter where the city grows, the downtown is going to be the central focus, right? And so if we keep public offices downtown, it is perhaps one of the better sites if you all do one or two options and have the consultant to design schematics from there. I think that would at least give us some framework and guidance of what a possibility for a future hall, a city hall will look like. The other thing I wanted to mention is I hear parking coming up a lot, and so there's ways to get creative with parking and integrating that in within the design. So that's something to even think about too. And so if we can pick a location together, you have my promise that I will, one, do an engagement strategy throughout the city to make sure that we're getting the right design in the right city hall where everyone feels like their needs can be serviced. And the other part is making sure that design offers and lend itself to the future of the city. So making sure that the city grows, employment and departments will grow, and making sure that services can be rendered at City Hall.
Thank you, Christopher. Audrey?
Just clarification. I know you would like us, and you've lobbied us to vote for Block 50 with that. So is your intent, if we were to choose to build on Block 50, that then the new community center is off the table?
No, I didn't say that.
So you think we can afford to build 2 new buildings?
No, and I didn't say that either.
No, I know, but I think it's an important statement to make that, I mean, we've been heavily lobbied, heavily looked at for a new community center. I don't see that we can do 2 separate buildings. And I don't think that I think our decision then, if our decision is to do one, then we need to be honest with the community that that's our choice right now, to do City Hall. That City Hall is more important, and the community center is not on target to have a new building right now, regardless of what location it's at.
I don't know what the cost it would be to redo the exterior and then remodel the interior and put an addition on. I don't think it'd be a big addition, but to accommodate needs at the community center. What have we got?
According to the sheet that we got today, the cost of that is 9 to 11 million.
Yeah. How much money do we have right now for that?
2?
2 million, that's what I thought.
Where are you looking at those numbers?
Summer City Council, Summer City Hall Community Center proposals as part of the packet that went out.
This page.
Yep.
Okay,
Last
thank you.
page.
If I remember right, City Hall was on the docket first, and then we kind of had the idea, since we had 2 million, I might be remembering this wrong, but since we had the 2 million from local option sales tax, hey, let's put them together, because we toured some, and they had them together. We thought it was a good idea, but the idea of building a new community center with City Hall was a new idea after we first decided to build a City Hall. You know, it was kind of to stretch our dollars, and that was before, when we thought combining them was, I think, 10 million. Now the price has gone way up for everything.
Audrey, getting back to you when you said the past council voted on City Hall. Where did they vote to have it before it got canceled due to COVID?
That was the vote. We voted to be out at the community center, to build together. That's that's where we were. We were ready to go. We had construction, they were working on
We
the
called it off
documents.
because of
and
COVID, I
Called it
remember
off
that.
because of COVID.
I don't know what to do. I don't want to keep going around in circles.
Well, I think we got it down to 2 locations. I think it's either gonna be at Block 50 or out at Robbins Island. And, I think the best thing to do then is, if we don't want to try to get this put on the ballot, let the citizens do it, then I think we need to do it in about a month at the city council, give us time to hear back from the constituents and the people on where they want it. And then that way we could listen to them.
All right, again, I think you were elected for that position. Yes, who was first? Vicky?
Can we do it at next week? Because I think I know it was on the radio that we were going to vote tonight. So people know that we were.
Yes, they do.
I didn't know. I didn't
Gonna
listen
do
to the
it.
radio. I was working all day.
And I just want to clarify, I specifically asked the question. This is a work session. I know that she's already ready to make the motion. I know that. But this is a work session. But I think for me, the question is, if we're going to vote on City Hall, then we are not dismissing, but we're setting the community center and saying it's not going to happen right now. You have a community center task force then that needs to understand they're not looking at a different location, they're not looking at it, that's on hold. That's where I'm at with this. Or if we're going to go back and look at, can we afford to do it together? Then we're back out to where the community center is. And if the task force is still looking at the community center being somewhere else, then I don't know that, then should the city hall be out there if the community center is not going to be there? Those are questions for me.
If you have City Hall out at the community center location, when you build the community center, it's going to move on that property, because I'm understanding City Hall would be up front.
And I understand that, but what I'm understanding is the community center task force
Yep,
is looking at other locations.
Yes, they are.
Other than the community center.
yes, they are. They're
So-
looking at all options.
So do we need to respect them and wait for them to come back versus us just making a decision because we want to make a decision? I mean, I'm concerned about that.
Well, like I said, if you build the City Hall at the community center's location, the community center is going to have to move on that property if they both are there. City Hall would be built, well,
I understand that. I don't know what that has to do with the decision if they're going to be two separate.
okay,
And the question in my mind is, what can we afford to do? From a tax standpoint, what we've set up, could we afford the payments that we've set up that are built into our budget right now? Could build City Hall? Or would we be raising taxes to just build City Hall? Those figures are here, aren't they? Or do you know, Leslie?
They're there. You have them on the front page.
right here.
This is the tax impact that you received at one of our other work sessions.
Yep.
And option 2, City Hall at Block 50 was the lowest cost, of course, which makes sense because this is where we had talked about remodeling the auditorium for City Hall, and then City Hall then on the auditorium site also was option 3. And then the last option is a new City Hall and community center. So that we would have to, currently, we're taking in about $550,000 on the current levy for the City Hall. And then that, but we would have to have a net debt levy increase of $389,000 at the current. This is speculating at interest rate of 4%.
And City Hall and Community Center, then we would need to raise it $1 million, or close to $1 million.
Close to it, yeah.
9.5%.
Right.
Thank you.
Then I did have, Tom, do you want to go through that? I didn't hand it out, though. I did have Tom do a little analysis as to when the property levy and that becomes like zero. Yeah. Go ahead and, if you want that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
You want to,
So currently,
thanks, Tom.
we're at three mills of the tax rate. 3% of our tax rate is going towards the City Hall debt levy or future City Hall debt levy. So at the current tax base or the tax capacity, it's, as Leslie mentioned, $555,000. So if we were to continue with this, some moderate growth in our tax base, I guess option 2, we wouldn't have to raise taxes per se, but that'll be many years out to 2042. That's just assuming a 3% tax capacity growth. A lot of factors go into that. That's,
We didn't want to have a outrageous tax capacity growth number because we wanted to be more on the low side of that. And of course, but as growth has happened, at what has been the average growth over the last say 5 years? Because I know we had a big jump.
Significantly higher as the real estate market value has increased significantly. So that also is new growth and new investments in Wilmer with businesses and new homes as well. But that's why we chose the low tax capacity growth at 3%. I think that would be on the low end. But then to keep the current 3 mills of the tax rate, that would be, as I said earlier, many years out, but 2042, we wouldn't have to raise the taxes, if you will, on the city side.
What do you want to do?
So we need to decide, it seems to me, are we going to, what are we going to do with community center? Are we going to renovate it? Are we going to build new? That maybe is the first thing we got to come to grips with before we are ready to make a decision on a site, it sounds like. Go ahead.
Just to say, being one of the folks sitting on that task force right now, that's, the renovation of it doesn't seem to be a favorite choice
Right.
at the moment.
We aren't saying that.
Right, right.
It's a question. So if it isn't the community center, if it's not in the same place it is right now, what are they gonna do with the current building? They're gonna tear it down? If they are gonna tear it down, there goes your city hall, right in the front. But are they gonna tear it down? Are they just gonna demolish it? What are they gonna do?
It's up to us.
But I mean, I wonder what their plans are.
From the task force point of view, I think they agree with Councilmember Fagerly that it's a city council question. They're just tasked with finding the best location.
But I
for the
mean, if they
current one.
find a different location, that would be just to get rid of it, obviously, right?
Be a question, yeah.
So if it comes back to money and what we can afford to do, and if the community center wants to be at a different location, then they have $2 million to work at a different location?
I think it's going to take more than $2 million for what.
Well,
yeah,
I'm
right.
just saying then it's the same issue as what we're talking about.
100%, and the two are tied together.
Yeah, so it's not a, I mean, I joke about that, you know. I've said it before. I'd love to live on Green Lake. I just have to find 20,000 people that are willing to pay for it. Is that what we're trying to do here? Is build something that we can't afford?
So, do we know what's gonna happen with the armory yet? I mean,
No, that's, the letter of intent was at least 15 years, so, no, yes.
have we ever looked at,
They move slower than we do.
That's hard to believe.
we've been at this since like 92.
Yeah.
We ever looked at adding on to current city hall? Adding a second floor on the one-story entrance part?
Not adding up, no, not that I'm aware of.
Is that a possibility? And then renovating?
I couldn't tell you. I would take a structural engineer to tell you if that basement could support another level.
'Cause I'd prefer,
Not just the basement, but the outside walls.
I'd prefer to have it stay where it's at then, instead of going block 50. That's me.
Justin.
But then again, so then there's added costs to that, because then you have to move staff completely out and find a place for us to be while the renovation goes on.
We got city auditorium. Temporarily.
That's contaminated, so they can't work in there.
Justin?
Just dawned on me as Councilmember Fagerly kind of said that his preference would be this, that as we're trying to come to some sort of, agreement here, like, maybe it's good for all of us to talk about what our preference is at the moment. I think what I'm looking for is value. I very much want to be able to do two things at the same time. I want the community center and I want City Hall. And so I think that probably means that none of them get to be a new building. So I think we're looking at existing buildings and renovation, or some kind of value to be able to bring those two of them together in one building. I don't imagine that this statement will be popular at this table tonight, but if you want to talk about making a decision, months ago, we had an option before us that was far cheaper than anything we're looking at right now, and it would have put both of them together. I get that that wasn't everyone's favorite choice of location, but it had value in my mind, and I'm still looking for that, whether it's at JCPenney's, which I imagine it is not, but I'm still looking for value somewhere.
Well, this council has put this off for years and years and years, and the dollars just keep going up and up and up and up. And that's our problem. And if we keep doing this, they're just gonna keep going up and up and up. And I would not be surprised to see it jump in the next year or two, just looking at what's going on. Our finance guy can maybe comment on that one, but when you look at the financial situation, just, nationwide, it does not look good.
The costs of construction have gone up. We have been fortunate with our general obligation bonding. The interest rates haven't increased to the rates you've seen for other borrowing, such as mortgages, but they have increased a little. The longer-term yields are still, or the rates are still, I'd say 4 is a good number. We were able to sell our street bonds at under 4 this year, 3.7. So that we've been fortunate as a city to be able to do that. But yeah, like you said, I don't know what the future exactly would hold, but
It certainly could change. no doubt
certainly
about
could.
it.
Yep.
And currently, the bond rates look like this year they might drop a bit, a little bit, which would be helpful. But also there are tax credits yet that the city would be able to use for construction, for heat and cooling and such, and the construction and windows, and that is a program that's going on right now. But that window, it is a 10-year program that the state of Minnesota has right now, but with changes in regime and at the levels, you can expect that they tend to last about 5 years. And that savings there is an opportunity to save us probably $1 million. But that's just a guesstimate because, of course, I don't know what our HVAC needs are and things like that. But speaking to the engineer that works on these things, that's what his guesstimate was. So that's $1 million opportunity that is still out there to go towards whatever happens that, at some future time, if this gets pushed off, that would not be there. But there are other things out there that can help with this kind of construction.
Tom?
How much longer is the task force on the community center going to be in place?
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Well, the mayor did charge them with hopefully having some kind of decision by February 5th, but
Yeah.
that kind of is fluid in a way too, depending on what their findings are over the next couple weeks.
Well, I would also like to hear the input on what the community center task force is, looking at, leaning towards, because that's gonna, if they're just gonna rehab it, for dollar wise, it's gonna make a lot more sense before we vote on a location. I think that, we have two spots. There's gonna be Block 50, like I said, and Robbins Island. I think those are the two. I think we're gonna have to wait till the community center task force comes up and says, this is what we're looking at, this is what we think the city council should do, or should move on, for the community center.
Can I tell you what Mayor Reese wants to do? Build City Hall on Block 50 and redo the community center.
At the
I think that is the least costly move for the city.
At the current location? the
Yes.
Community center?
I agree with what Butterfield was saying, but then what I heard today was you guys need to make up your mind so we know what to do. So I feel like we're like, nobody knows what to do. We're waiting for the other side to know.
Audrey?
I think there's great value in the community center location for the future, just for other things at Robbins Island, for a variety of things with that. And so making a decision without knowing what we're going to do with that location. But I do think that the city council's priority should be City Hall. And whether we've talked about City Hall for close to 20 years. We never planned for it. We didn't start putting money away for it until 3-4 years ago. So, we're in a difficult position because there hasn't been planning done for it before with that. But I do think the value of that location, I could see City Hall there in a heartbeat. I could see the City Hall and the community center there together with hopefully creating some efficiencies also. But just to do one, to say we did one, to me is not making a good decision.
Carl?
I would agree, Aubrey, that the Robbins Island site is a wonderful site for the community center. I have spoken in favor of that site, but the reality is to put both together, I think, is not something that we can afford to do right now. And maybe in the future, the opportunity will arise where we can do more with the community center, but I think right now, maybe to renovate the community center and try to upgrade it as best it can to meet their needs is what's best. And building a city hall to keep it downtown, from what I'm hearing from business owners and people who have been downtown, that's probably the way we should go. So I would be in favor of Block 50 for a city hall, renovating community center where it's at.
Just turn that around a little bit, Carl.
Yeah.
Then why won't we build brand-new community center for everybody in Willmar to be able to attend, and just renovate the current city hall where only a select few people are? We can go either way, and, I haven't heard from anybody to make a decision that way on, okay, do we just rehab the old community center and build a brand-new city hall? Or do we rehab City Hall and build a brand-new community center? I haven't heard back on any of that yet. I haven't heard from anybody, but if you're bringing that up, brand-new City Hall, and we're just gonna put a Band-Aid over there on the community center, we're gonna make a lot of people mad.
Yes, no matter which way we go, people are going to be upset with the decision that we make.
Yep.
That's the reality of it.
Audrey?
The requests for state funds that were put in for the community center, Is that, do we expect to hear something in this legislative session?
Yes, yes, it's in this legislative session, because this is a bonding year,
Yeah.
so it's in this legislative
And
session.
what did we ask for again?
10 million.
What do you think the chances are of getting the 10 million?
Honestly, not likely. And that's only because you need to lobby your legislators.
Can I ask why we don't think, Carl, you've made the comment that you don't think that we can do both in one spot?
I think cost-wise, we're looking at, what, 15 million, 16 million for Block 50? We'd be looking at, to combine the two, 26 to 27 million.
Right.
It's 13 million apiece.
But I mean, like, I'm looking, you know, what Wilmer 10 brought us for J.C. Penney was in that 20 million. What BKV thought about for J.C. Penney was a little more. And again, maybe it's not J.C. Penney, but there's buildings and other locations in this community that I imagine could be, that have the square footage to renovate and still put them together.
That takes away the argument of keeping City Hall downtown.
Yes, it does.
I put value on that. Yes. From what I've heard, from other council members and from the business community.
Well, I think we just have to make a decision when we really want to get this on city council agenda, you know, to vote then. You know, it sounds like I said, we're in two locations. I would like to hear back from what the task force says before we put this to vote. I really would.
Can I also ask, if the idea is to stay downtown, and this is one block away from the current location, what's the big advantage to Block 50 as opposed to the current location?
Please. I would like your perspective, being a new employee.
So one consideration is even if we renovated our current city hall, there's still not enough space to perhaps create a council chamber. So for public meetings and public spaces, I feel, and based on small conversations that I had with the general public, they're not showing up because they're not sure the location that public meetings are being held. And so that is a huge sticking point in finding a location, building somewhere where it's a set agenda and time where the general public can find those who represent them. So give that some consideration as well.
Would the third floor make that happen?
Well, again, as Administrator Valian said, we're not sure if that building can even support a
We need to
third.
find that out if that's a consideration.
Right. If you all have not been into City Hall recently, I think a tour with and seeing how the staff is working and the way that some of the offices are built up it will be an eye-opener. At the end of the day, we all want to serve the general public at the best we can. And I think being in the building just a short period of time, we are busting at the seams for space.
I think we understand that, right? And I think that's, a renovation could open up a lot of possibilities. I mean, we heard when we sat down here, pick a location, architects can do anything. It'd be interesting to know if it could support an additional floor.
Audrey?
I think if the community center were to be redone, that council chambers could be in the community center like it was drawn up in some of the other plans with having that be an open space and having it, that room to be shared versus having just total separate space. And I know there's value in having that inside City Hall, but I don't know that this community needs 3 or 4 locations for meetings just to be held in either, so.
Julie's still there?
Julie?
Yes,
Well, just making sure you're with us yet.
So quiet.
I am.
You got
I'm
anything?
waiting, I've been waiting to hear if other people speak to different points, and they've kind of covered some of the same things I would have said. The only thing that I wouldn't be in favor of is the idea of rehabbing the present community center. As far as the 9 to 11 million, that isn't using the taxpayers' money the best for a building that they said that would have to be totally redone with the shell, and we don't really know about the structure until they take the shell off and open up the walls. But again, we're dealing with the same issue that the city hall would have to be dealing with, in that they'd have to get relocated while that remodeling took place. The only thing that would really work on that site would be is if the community center built new on the south side, and then they tore down the old community center and then built the city hall on the north side.
So Justin, how quickly do you think we could get something from the task force?
I think the task force is waiting to hear answer from an outside source, so it depends on how fast the outside source moves. I mean, if they move quickly, I don't think the mayor's request of early February is out of line.
I'm always out of line.
You're always out of line.
Justin, is that a request, are they waiting to hear about a certain property, or?
Yes.
See, that throws a whole nother,
Yeah, their preference is not to renovate the current location.
or build with City Hall
Mm,
at the current
No.
location.
I don't think that, like, I
Their
feel like they've
preference
been.
is they just don't want to be dislocated or have any programming stop while there is anything new being done. They want to continue as is and move everything as is and to somewhere.
But
They don't
that's,
want to be disrupted.
but that's something that we could reassure them that we would do our very best to do. I don't know that that's a reasonable request from the standpoint, or to think that we would just shut them down. I think we need to communicate that there would be a way for them to continue throughout this process.
I believe it has been communicated.
Yeah, I think they understand that.
So then
But
why is
that
it
is
still an
still-
issue?
That is still the.
Is it our staff then? It's not it's not the task force. Is it our staff that are requesting that?
No.
No.
It's the task force. That has been the statement. And that was the last statement last week. Even though the reinsurances have been there.
And I think there's also additional concerns about that building and the rehab cost of it not being that different than other options that are on the table, you know, for more secure buildings, or, you know, even building new at Gesh or Lincoln isn't that different than renovating an iffy building.
So we led them down the path to think that we could build a new building or for them.
It'd be quite a bit smaller.
Well, that has been on the table since November of 2022.
For,
So
with
that's-
community center, with the city hall.
No. When we started this process.
Oh, you're right. you're right.
BKV came with
Yeah, with multiple locations.
with locations, 3 locations for a community center, 3 for a city hall, and 2 combined locations.
Tom?
What was, on that lost local option sales tax portion for the community center, how was that pitched to the public? Was it for brand new, rehab, or what? I don't recall on what, how all that came about.
I don't think there was a pitch to it. I think it was just
Yeah, I think. it
added.
was Just to go
to the
towards
request.
community center.
So it could have been for rehab or no then? Okay.
Are we gonna go anyplace tonight?
Home.
Yeah. Good one, right?
Intuition.
I had great hopes we were gonna move on tonight.
I'm disappointed to hear that there was an expectation for a vote tonight, because that is not what we do at work sessions. I think we have multiple decisions to make before we make this one. And that's communication with the community center, realization of what we can afford to do. I don't think we can do one without the other.
Vicki?
I'm wondering if we can have a discussion sometime about voting at work sessions? Because it's come up a couple times, and if it's legal to do so, it would make sense to do that if we can.
Then we should post it as a city council meeting where decisions are going to be made, not a work session where things are going to be discussed.
That's right.
I agree with Audrey on that. That way it gives our residents time to come in. If they want to come in, they can come in. If they don't, they don't.
They can come into this too.
Well, I know. Some people may come in if they knew that
They
there was
can.
going to be a vote.
And if there's
Or
actual
if there
business
was.
that needs to be done every week, then we have a different issue. I think we have 2 council meetings, and we can wait to make decisions at those council meetings.
We got too many people talking at once.
They did an interview with her.
Let's say work session.
Motion adjourned?
Second.
Or adjourned.